Hello and welcome to Rise Unwind Wichita. You know, each and every week we talk to people from across the country about things you could do in your neighborhood. And on this week's show, we got a trolley.
It's a replica from the Tom Hanks movie that was filmed in Pittsburgh. Yes. The real one is probably encased somewhere.
The first person that came to mind was Will Ferrell. I just think of, a guy like him, is, a comedian, the funny guy, like not taking life so serious all the time. I think that's just a good approach to have.
Predators are more sophisticated today than ever. Kids are more vulnerable because they're more willing to share private details and to meet people that they just met online.
All of that and more right here on Rise and Unwind. Do you ever wonder what it really takes to earn one of the most iconic uniforms in sports? I would love one, but I wouldn't look good in it. Season 2 of America's Sweethearts, Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, just dropped on Netflix, and it gives us an all-access pass to the high-pressure world of DCC auditions, training camp, and the life under those stadium lights. So joining us today is longtime DCC director Kelli Finglass, along with current squad members Jada, McLean, and Reece Weaver, here with a sneak peek behind the Pompoms. Welcome to the show, you three. How are you?
Good morning.
Great.
All right. This new season really takes viewers deeper than it has ever done before. What made you want to tell more of the story this time around, Kelli?
Well, there's just, it's a beautiful story. It's beautiful people, and I've always been very, very proud of the dance and performance achievements of the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, but Netflix has now put a new lens on the cheerleaders as individuals, and you get to see this beautiful, complex life of Jada, and you see Reece's personal story, getting married, and her experiences with being a new bride. It's just, it's captivating, and they're all someone that different people can relate to and be inspired from.
Jada and Reece, what was it like to have cameras following you along your journey? I have a hard time with the ones that are in this room. Did anything surprise you about watching it back after everything?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't too surprised just because, for one, we lived it. But I think we have a great camera team. I think they do their best to just be there. They don't really, force anything. They don't try to get in the middle of, anything going on. They kind of just hang around and film. So everything is very authentic, and it is really how it, was lived out. They're just there to capture it.
The show really captures how intense the training process is. What kind of pressure do you guys as dancers face both physically and emotionally?
I think, as dancers, we, from a very young age, we're constantly looking at ourselves in the mirror, and we're trying to learn technique and moves and all sorts of things in the mirror. And I think that can sometimes negatively have an effect on dancers as they grow older with comparison or wanting to have certain strengths that other girls have. But I think that for us, we all know that we are cream of the crop, and we do our best in everything that we do, but we also push ourselves. And so I'm just really grateful for the sisterhood that we have, and that camaraderie of making sure that we're the best in all that we do.
And you get to see a lot of sisterhood and personal growth this season. How has being part of the DCC changed your lives beyond the field?
Yeah, I've met some of my best friends on this team, and truly they've shaped me. They've taught me a lot about myself. They've taught me a lot about, being a good friend, being a good teammate, and being a good human being. So I'm grateful for these women. They are a lot more beautiful on the inside than they are on the outside. I know that's probably hard to believe, but I think they are amazing individuals, and I'm just so grateful to be surrounded by people like them.
I want to thank you three for joining me this morning. If you love football, dance, or just that great underdog story, check out America's Sweethearts, Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, now streaming on Netflix. Thank you three for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
What would drive a teenager to help one of America's most notorious serial killers? For the first time in 50 years, Elmer Wayne Henley Jr. breaks his silence about his role in the crimes of Dean Corll, known as the Candyman Killer in The Serial Killer's Apprentice. Criminologist Dr. Catherine Ramsland takes us inside Henley's mind in his chilling partnership with Corll, revealing the complex mix of fear, manipulation, and choices that led to the largest known mass murder in U.S. history at the time. Dr. Ramsland joins us now. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ramsland.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Okay, you spent more than 60 hours speaking with Elmer Wayne Henley Jr. What was your first impression when you began these conversations?
We first started with letters. My impression was that he was very intelligent, self-reflective, and willing to explore this with me. And then when we talked by phone, he was very remorseful. He was horrified by the things he did, but he did not want me to try to persuade him that he didn't have responsibility in this.
And this case has haunted Houston for decades. What makes Henley's perspective so important to understanding the full story?
Because the sense of what people have of him is from a book that was written 50 years ago, based on pretty much on police reports and a few family interviews. No one talked to Henley. No one talked to anyone who knew Henley and really had not gotten his story. He had attempted to tell it a couple of times, but it was dismissed or distorted. And this is the first time he's really taking a deep dive into his story. He wants the truth of what happened to him out there, in part to help protect kids today and prevent this kind of thing in the future.
And Dean Corll was known as the Candyman killer. How did he manage to evade suspicion for so long while committing so many crimes?
Corll was what we know as a successful predator. He understood how to groom a whole community to believe he was just a nice guy, a big brother, someone who could take kids to the beach and the movies and whatnot and take over some of the parental responsibilities, and everybody really liked him. So his ability to persuade people that he was just a normal guy while he was looking for, among the teenage boys in the neighborhood, he was looking for victims that he could torture, rape, and kill. And so he was successful at that for 3 years until Henley himself put a stop to it after being his accomplice, but put a stop to it by killing him.
And you explored the dynamic between Henley and Corll. What did you learn about the psychological forces at play in that relationship?
I looked a lot at the differences among types of accomplices and what we call the murdar, how the predator looks for the kind of person that could partner with him in vulnerable kids, how they can bait them and manipulate them into doing things they wouldn't ordinarily do. So it was a kind of a master dominant submission relationship. It was coerced and groomed, and Corll knew exactly what he was doing. He had learned from others. He apparently was part of a larger network of traffickers. And he certainly studied their ways, whether he participated much with them or not. And so he used that to groom first David Brooks and then Wayne Henley.
And beyond the true crime aspect, what do you hope viewers will take away from this documentary?
I hope they take away that predators are more sophisticated today than ever. Kids are more vulnerable because they're more willing to share private details and to meet people that they just met online who are complete strangers. So we're hoping that kids who get into trouble, who are pulled into such situations, are listened to when they try to get help, because that's something that Wayne did not have when he tried to get help.
Is there anything that we could learn from the situation and use for future?
I think the important thing is to understand how predators groom the community into believing that they're wonderful people. If there are complaints or if there is the suggestion that they are doing something with kids, like they don't want other adults around when they're with kids. And so we have a whole list of guidelines in the book about this. We definitely want people to understand that there are things to be on the lookout. They are signals, and that they need to pay attention to them.
The Serial Killer's Apprentice premieres on Investigation Discovery, and it also streams on Max. Don't miss this unprecedented look into one of the most disturbing criminal partnerships in American history. Dr. Ramsland, thanks for joining me this morning.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
AI is everywhere these days, even in our workplaces. But according to a new Cox business survey, many younger workers are using it without saying a word to their bosses. Joining us now is Kelsea Warren, founder of The Seamless Coach, to help us understand what this trend means and how companies can better support their employees in the age of workplace tech. Hi, Kelsea.
Hi, good morning.
What did this new survey reveal about how Gen Z and millennials are using AI at work?
So this survey by Cox Business showed that many Gen Z and millennials are using a lot of different tech tools to maintain productivity at work. Specific to AI, about 60% of them actually feel positive about its use. But what I found interesting is about 50% of them actually feel a little bit nervous to admit to their bosses how much they're using it for productivity. Because we have so many different tech tools that we're, expected to learn and use in the workplace, about 2/3 of them feel a little overwhelmed by that. And then about 50% of them feel like they don't really have much influence in the tech decision-making process at work. So the study by Cox Business is really important because it shows kind of a disconnect between Gen Z and millennials and business and IT leaders when it comes to workplace tech.
Why do some workers feel like they can't be open with their managers about using tech like AI?
When it comes to communication, what this survey found is that many Gen Z and millennials actually don't know what their company policy is or if they even have one or not. So this can prevent them to be open and honest simply because they just don't know. And I would recommend that leaders, especially in the business and IT space, create clear policy around AI and tech use. And not only that, where they kind of reach out to the Gen Z and millennials and ask their opinion in the decision-making process. So if you are looking to get a new tool, update a software, or define or upgrade your policy, why not reach out to the Gen Z and millennials that are using this tech every single day and get their input? The adoption and the engagement around its use is going to be much better that way.
What are some of the biggest challenges IT teams are facing right now with all of this new tech?
The survey from Cox Business showed one of the biggest challenges is actually called shadow IT. So 60% of Gen Z and millennials in the workplace use their personal software or devices to get work done. And 50% of them say it's actually faster and easier sometimes from there to use their personal devices. So with this shadow IT, it's creating an issue for IT and tech teams because without this visibility, they're not able to properly manage the use of AI or predict or prevent any potential outages or issues. What can be helpful is, again, creating clear policy around AI and tech use. But what's even more helpful is partnering with the experts in the managed IT space, like Cox Business or RapidScale. They're going to come alongside IT teams and make sure that they are preventing or predicting any kind of outages. And they're really going to be the best choice for a partner in this space, especially when it comes to shadow IT.
How can companies make sure their employees don't feel overwhelmed or burnt out by all this technology?
When it comes to future-proofing businesses, especially with all of the tech that we're expected to use, it's important to make sure that you have the right people and the right roles that are managing IT, and that you're also looking to the next generation of leaders. So we mentioned including Gen Z and millennial in this space and in the decision-making process, but even better is going to continuing to include them in the conversation ongoing. So making sure that we want to know about what tech tools they're using, what issues they may be having. And if you find yourself in this space, so if you are a Gen Z or millennial like I am, I want you to feel empowered to speak up to your leadership and share about your thoughts about tech or any friction that you may be experiencing, any ideas that you may have. This is going to be important for you to advocate for yourself, but also to position yourself as a leader in this space and build trust in your organization.
Where can folks go to learn more?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about the survey from Cox Business, go to coxblue.com/workplace tech survey.
Kelsey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So what happens when two beloved worlds from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood finally meet? It's a beautiful day indeed. In a brand new PBS Kids special, Donkey, Hodie, and Friends welcome Daniel Tiger and his dad for their very first visit to someplace else, bringing together puppets, music, and lessons inspired by Fred Rogers himself. Joining us are Kristen DeQualo, co-producer of Donkey, Hodie, and Chris Loggins, supervising producer of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, to share how this crossover came to life and why it's such a celebration of creativity, friendship, and problem solving. Welcome to the show, you two.
We're doing great. Good morning. Thank you for having us.
All right, so this is the first time Don Quixote and Daniel Tiger have shared the screen. How did the idea for this crossover come about?
It's been something we've been thinking about for, I would say, a few years. Well, definitely at least a couple of years, because we started writing it about 2 years ago. But Don Quixote premiered on air in 2021, and it's the second series produced by Fred Rogers Productions that features reimagined characters and worlds from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So ever since we launched Don Quixote, we thought about ways that we might start bridging it with Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood and Mr. Rogers. And Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood was the first series we created based on this. So we had started doing elements of that. We introduced trolley on Don Quixote. We introduced speedy delivery service, but we thought at the beginning of season 3, the time was right to bring Daniel and Dad into someplace else and reimagine them as puppets.
And fans will notice some familiar nods to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Can you share some of the special details or some of these little Easter eggs that viewers should be looking out for?
Sure. Well, I think one big one is the Look and Listen song. Both of our series are very musically driven. Both of our series feature songs, reimagined songs from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but this is the first time the Look and Listen song is going to appear in either of our shows. And it is threaded throughout the special, so that's one really nice nod. And there are other things like trolley, and you want to talk about the clock?
Sure, yeah. It was fun for us to also include elements from Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood in this special. So what brings Dad Tiger and Daniel Tiger to someplace else is Grampy Hodie has a clock that he can't get to work. And viewers of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood maybe remember that Dad Tiger works at the clock factory. So he comes to help his old pal Grampy Hodie with his clock.
And Fred Rogers often emphasized creativity and perseverance. How do these values kind of show up in this special?
Lots of ways. We have lots of messages threaded throughout the special, but the first one is about meeting someone new. Daniel Tiger and Dad Tiger arrive on trolley, and it's Daniel and Donkey's first time meeting each other. And for a young child, that can be uncertain, that could be exciting, it could be scary. There's a lot of big feelings wrapped into that. So we offer a strategy for that in the form of course, a really groovy song about asking lots of questions to get to know each other better when you're meeting someone new. And we think that's also, it's just really great timing right now with back to school. A lot of kids are heading back to school and meeting new friends and new classmates. So we hope that's one example of a lesson that will really resonate with everyone.
And Donkey and Daniel persevere in their quest for the rainbow ball.
Yeah.
So that's also a fun part of the episode.
Yeah.
And for families that may not watch regularly, why is now a great time to tune in, and how could they help keep supporting PBS and kids programming?
Every day is a great time to tune in. Every day is a beautiful day to watch our shows. But this, we hope, will really help bring forward the messages that are timely and timeless for all of us about managing feelings, problem solving, being resilient in the face of a challenge, meeting someone new, and just being really joyful, having a lot of fun, singing, dancing. I think that's stuff that we all need to appreciate, and it resonates now. And you can watch the special on your local PBS station. So supporting stations is really great.
And we're always thinking about children watching with their family, their parents, and caregivers, and we hope that they can watch together and then talk about the show after they've seen it, and hopefully use some of what's in these episodes in their lives, and that it resonates and stays with them. One thing that Fred Rogers said is if we can make things more mentionable, we can make them more manageable. So hopefully this is an entry point for families to talk about these type of things that we're covering in Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood and Don Quixote.
And is that the real trolley behind you?
It's a replica from the Tom Hanks movie that was filmed in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
The real one is probably encased somewhere.
It's encased, but this one is as close as you can get to the real thing. The set designers of that movie did an impeccable job recreating Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
All right, I just had to find out. Don't miss Daniel Tiger Visits Someplace Else. PBS depends on your support to keep programs like this on the air, so visit your local PBS station's website to donate and help keep these inspiring stories alive for future generations. I want to thank you, too, for joining me this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Ever feel like you're constantly putting out digital fires for your kids and your parents while barely keeping your own online life in check? A new survey from Cox Mobile says so-called sandwich generation, those juggling care for kids and aging parents, is carrying most of the stress around online safety. So joining us today is Elizabeth Miller, certified caregiving consultant and founder of Happy Healthy Caregiver, to show how caregivers can ease that stress and take back a little bit of that peace of mind. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
So, okay, sandwich generation, why do you think they feel so overwhelmed by digital safety concerns right now?
Well, a sandwich generation caregiver is under a lot of pressure. And when it comes to online and digital safety, they are juggling it for themselves and for their family members. And in this Cox Mobile survey, 86% said this was a top concern for them, and 30% said that they are definitely feeling the stress and overwhelm. Makes sense to me because on one hand, for aging parents, they're worried about identity theft and privacy violations. And then on the other hand, for their children and their teenagers, they're worried about cyberbullying and online predators. And then we're stuck in the middle, right? We've got to figure out how to also mitigate that for ourselves because we're spending 5 or more hours online. So it's a lot. There's a lot coming at the sandwich generation caregiver.
I've really never thought of it that way. Yet you've got a unique perspective. Are there any way safety worries that show up pretty much across all generations in a family?
Yes. The survey also did show this as well, that a third of seniors, a third of the sandwich generation, and a fifth of teenagers have experienced some kind of or disinformation online. And while they didn't really say this was a top concern, we know that generative AI is becoming more prevalently used on a day-to-day basis. Teenagers that took the survey said that they have used generative AI, they use it on a regular basis. So this is something that all 3 generations need to be conscious of, that generative AI, one of the risks of the output is that this mis or disinformation can exist.
And what simple steps can caregivers take to lower the stress around online threats and maybe even some of that tech overload?
Yeah, less stress, please, for sure. We all need that. We can certainly do, only click on links from trusted URLs. We can set strong passwords. We can do some fact checking for some of these online claims that we're seeing. And I think we can do some other things too. We can check with our internet provider, our device manufacturer, to see what kind of safety and security features they've already built into their product. And these could be things like malicious activity monitoring, parental controls, elder-friendly modes, and even some remote monitoring. So when you're running some of these things in the background, that's going to add this extra layer of protection, and it's certainly going to offer us more peace of mind.
So what does being proactive look like when it comes to keeping your family safe online?
Well, I was relieved to see some good news there in the survey too, is that families are already having conversations about online and digital safety. And so let's keep continuing to do that. Let's have honest and open conversations, maybe as the sandwich generation caregiver ourselves, sharing some real life examples to help prompt some of these conversations to happen with our aging parents and our teenagers. And to further the impact of the survey, Cox Mobile teamed up with Common Sense Media, and they did create some great resources to help facilitate these conversations and educate us about digital and online safety.
So where can they go for some of these resources and maybe even get some more information?
Yeah, they can go and check out more information about the survey results, as well as get these resources to help us proactively have these conversations at coxmobilesafety.com.
Elizabeth Miller, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Kelsey Hart has been making serious moves in country music, earning millions of streams, touring across the country, and writing songs for some of the biggest names in his genre. With his new single, Something That You'd Miss, it shows a little more personal, reflective side and is the follow-up to his high-energy hit Fireworks. We're catching up with him today ahead of the release. Welcome to the show, Kelsey. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Something That You'd Miss. It tells a vivid story. What's the backstory to this song?
Yeah, so it's a song I was a part of writing last year that one of my buddies, we were on a songwriting retreat, and he just started telling a story, kind of about a situation that he had been in that was similar to this, where wasn't anything, that really happened, bad in the relationship. The girl just, she had moved a long way from her hometown to be with him, and just decided, it just wasn't for her. So that's where the story stemmed from. And, he just said, I guess if I was more like her hometown, then I'd be something she'd miss too, and so that's where the song started. And, you hope that's something you never have to go through, but that's, the reality for some folks. So,
and your debut, Life With You, it really connected with some fans. How does fan feedback tend to influence the direction you take with new music?
Yeah, no, Life With You was certainly, it's really cool getting to hear all the stories on that. And I think anytime we step into a room, you're hoping to write something that people can hang on to and kind of put to their life. And we're not just telling our own stories. We're trying to, every time we're writing songs, we're trying to help tell other people's stories. So that's the goal every time.
And I always like to ask musicians and artists about their influences. And it's not the same way about like, hey, who are your favorite influences? Outside of the music genre, what type of other art or artists, could be actors, writers, authors, filmmakers, what other artists out there kind of inspire you and your work when you go in to write music?
Oh man, as far outside of the music business, I mean, if I'm the first person that came to mind was Will Ferrell. And I just think of, a guy like him, is, a comedian, the funny guy, like not taking life so serious all the time. I think that's just a good approach to have, so I think the lightheartedness of a guy like him, is crucial.
And you've written for other artists as well. What is different about creating music for yourself versus writing for somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, we're always, kind of trying to write in the direction of what I'm doing because I don't have a ton of time to write anymore. But it also just, at the end of the day, we can't record every single song that we're part of writing. So we'll just kind of break them down and see what we think, could possibly work well for another artist. And so I don't know if I think a ton about the differences of it. It's more of, kind of writing in my direction and then taking it and seeing what we can do.
So where does inspiration strike most when you're like writing new music? Are you like in the shower and realize, hey, I've been humming this little song, or out on tour with a guitar strumming around? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes from just daily life, and sometimes hearing somebody say something. It can really even come from a conversation, the way somebody says something, or you can pull titles and ideas from anything, and probably my favorite way to write a song is just going in to the room with a good idea, something that we can really, write around. So.
And you've been out touring. Is there a recent moment or some like fan connection or anything that when you're on stage that kind of stuck with you lately?
It's every night, it's kind of the same, with Life With You after we'll play Life With You as our last song, or one of our last songs. And then we'll do the meet and greets at the end of the night. And it's always the coolest part to me is just getting to talk to the fans and hear, their personal stories about, how the songs, have affected them and stuff. So I think every night that's probably my favorite part.
Kelsey Hart's new single, Something That You'd Miss, is out Friday, August 22nd. You can find it on all streaming platforms and get some of his tour info over at kelseyhart.com. Hey, Kelsey, thanks for joining me this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy. Appreciate you.
And that's it for Rise and Unwind Wichita. I want to thank you for tuning in and checking out the show. If you actually want to be on the show, go to our website. That's riseunwindtv.com. Fill out the form, set it on in, and you could be on a future episode. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook. That is at Rise Unwind. Or go to our YouTube channel, also at Rise Unwind. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, all that other stuff. And until next week, that was Rise and Unwind.